The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Well, happy Victory Monday, Cowboys Nation. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. It is October 31st, All Hallows Eve, but the only thing spooky here in Dallas was that 49-29 victory against the Chicago Bears, hence why we are celebrating yet another Victory Monday ahead of this bye week. I'm joined here by two incredible ladies that you all already know. Of course, Christy Scales. Thank you for joining us today, Christy, and Aisha Morrison. Hello, Aisha.
Hi.
We have plenty to get into, so let's roll right into it. I mean, hey, it's spooky season. We have plenty to kind of go off of with today. So, Christy, I want to start with you because I want to introduce a little segment here, Christy's Sideline Report, because you give such great insight to everybody, to how the sights and the sounds are so much different from that sideline view. So what is something that you noticed from the sideline yesterday early on? Were the feelings a little bit different from maybe the week before in terms of, Rust and Dak Prescott, everything like that? Give us the full scoop, Christy. What did you see from the sidelines?
What I noticed early on was Cowboys got the ball first on offense, and it was pedal to the metal from the start. It was up-tempo. It was no huddle. A couple of reasons for that. One is something that Coach McCarthy has talked about the past few weeks, and we talked about it the past 2 weeks on the podcast, is the number of total plays for the Cowboys offense has been low. It's been in the mid to high 50s, and normally it's closer to around 70, hopefully 70 plus. So by going up tempo, hopefully you can get more plays in there. But really the big thing was that first series, it was converting third downs. Because what's been the bugaboo for this offense, Aisha? What have we talked about for 7 weeks?
Third down.
Third down. The inability to convert on third down and get a first down and continue drives. That's why the number of plays have been low, is because they hadn't been able to sustain drives offensively. So the third play from scrimmage, 3rd and 2, Tony Pollard with a run. Next third down, same series, Michael Gallup. Throws to C.D. Lamb. I mean, in the first half alone, there were passes, but also Dak a couple times keeping it on the ground. So right away, what I noticed was going up-tempo, those third-down conversions, and they didn't stop. They kept the pressure on the Bears' defense for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to Christy's point, the efficiency of the offense was evident early in this game, and you could tell that they had, a clear and concise plan in this game. They saw favorable matchups. They went at them very early and hit the ground running. Like you said, Dak talked about starting fast. I definitely noticed the tempo and the change of pace. And I've heard them previously talked about how up-tempo is something that they've thrived at and they practice, adamantly in practice, and you kind of got to see that. And with getting other guys involved, the defense was on its heels so early in that game. They were what is going on right now? And I think all of us were kind of huh?
It was.
What's happening? Because we hadn't seen this offense, like you said, start fast like this. And this trickles back down into last season. I want to say, too, is they had slower starts. And then you would see the adjustments in the second half. So I like that they are, wanting to establish themselves as a more grounded first half team and getting out early on these teams and putting them in tough spots.
Yeah, and the other thing about going up tempo, it's not so much that you're hurrying up in terms of trying to get as many plays and get it off in 15 seconds, or it's a 2-minute drill, hurry up. What you're doing is you're not allowing the defense to substitute and match up.
Say that.
Because if you do not substitute on offense, you don't have to wait. If you substitute on offense, the umpire, one of the 7 officials, is going to come and stand over the ball, not allow you to snap it, because if you substitute on offense, by rule, the defense has to be allowed to substitute. So if you're going fast, if you're not substituting, if you're getting up on the line of scrimmage, whether it's no huddle or something you call a muddle, which is kind of not a full huddle, but just kind of, quick get together and then everybody get on the line. then you're not allowing the defense to substitute, and you're also it's harder for them to communicate as well. So there's a method to the madness. It's not speeding up for the sake of speeding up. It's trying to put the defense at a disadvantage, and you be able to keep the matchups that are favorable to you on offense.
Well, and what what really stood out to me early on was we've talked a lot about this on this podcast specifically, and let me let you in on a little secret. We were right, because we talked a lot about how when Dak came back, maybe shake off some of the rust, but then eventually we were going to see the foundation that this team is going to get to build upon. And I think they're in such a rare position to where, like you said, Aisha, we already know what these other teams across the NFC East, across the NFC are going to look like. They're basically at the point where, yes, we know, even looking at the Packers, what their strong points are, what their weak points are. You look at the Buccaneers, very similar situation. All of these teams that we're seeing as threats, what you're playing with. The Cowboys are in a very rare position because of Dak being out for that span of several weeks, that now you have kind of an upper hand to where teams don't know what to look for within the Cowboys offense, given it's only because this was the groundwork that was laid. So now this will be the tape game, the film game that everybody's going to go back and look for those weak points. And this will be the comparable, I think, for the rest of the season for the Cowboys going forward. So I think laying that ground foundation and that work to see exactly what this offense is capable of, that was the most exciting thing. And given it was against the Bears, which we know wasn't supposed to be a team that gave them a struggle really offensively, I think we expected the offense to have a great performance. But 49 points, the highest in the league so far this season. Unbelievable and just so well-deserved. I think what a week to start the bye week off, right? Oh, there we go. Thank you, Jazzy.
Yeah, and I definitely want to add to that point regarding the unique situation that the Cowboys are in, because you hear it in the NFL all the time, like week 7, week 8, you kind of start being like, okay, this is what this team does well, this is what they don't do well, et cetera, et cetera. And like Jess was saying, the Cowboys are in a weird state where they really could be gaining momentum where teams are kind of at this point in the season, like later in the season at the right time, because, they're kind of still getting acclimated and stuff. So after this bye, they can really hit the ground running with what they're gathering and what they're learning about themselves.
Yeah.
They are like, this team to me, looking at just kind of how things are going with them, they're battle tested in a way that I think is going to help them. They've seen so many different offenses. They've seen so many various, like schematically, like different offenses and defenses, coordinators and stuff. And then also dealing with the loss of your quarterback and being able to, overcome that. I think that's caused them to have to shift in ways that earlier in the season that maybe other teams haven't had to do. And they just know they found so many different ways to win. And I think that that's going to help them. All this teach tape, all of this stuff, I think it's going to help them later in the season. So I do agree. But the Bears' secondary ain't nothing to sleep on, though. Like, their run defense is something that people, are like, obviously wasn't the best in the league. But that secondary, for the Cowboys to do what they did against that secondary was impressive to me because they don't give up a whole bunch in the past. They're 7th in the league. Well, they were until yesterday. My bad.
The numbers are skewed
No
after
shade.
that. No, the word that you used, Aisha, that I really like is acclimated.
Yes, ma'am.
And what I would equate that to specifically through these first 8 weeks is getting young guys involved and having to rely, for example, Tyler Smith at left tackle. You don't have Tyron Smith. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
But also, what did the Cowboys do yesterday to help make up for the loss of Noah Brown, who was not available because of a hamstring injury? So you've lost one of your wide receivers. There were 4 tight ends that were active, and there were so many plays yesterday that had 3 tight ends and then some short yardage, even with 4 tight ends. And so Jake Ferguson got another touchdown yesterday. Hendershot had one last week. And by the way, Jess, you were asking about things from the sideline. A couple of favorite moments from the sideline yesterday. Well, one was just seeing how excited Zeke was for Tony Pollard. I think there are so many people in Cowboys Nation and certainly in media, national media especially, that try and put Zeke and and Tony Pollard is an either or. When 1-2 punch, you need a 1 and a 2.
Tell
but
him,
anyway,
Christy,
but,
tell him.
But Zeke was so engaged on the sideline the whole time. He was wearing the headsets. He's listening to all of the play calls. There was no bigger supportive person on the sideline than Zeke yesterday. But my favorite moment was after Ferguson's touchdown, the celebration in the side in the end zone. Yeah, they looked like they were PRCA rodeo calf ropers there. We had some champion tie down going. So if you didn't get to see it, what happened was Ferguson scores the touchdown, and then Hendershot, the fellow rookie wide receiver, the two of them, by the way, dressing up for Halloween as Dumb and Dumber. I know we mentioned that last week.
That is
So
perfect. I love that.
let's just say that they're very close on and off the field.
They are.
And so Hendershot lays on his back, and Ferguson goes over, and Hendershot has his arms and legs outstretched straight up, and Ferguson pretends to calf rope, to tie him down. And so I thought that was the most fun celebration for the Cowboys so far this year.
Oh,
most
definitely.
creative.
There you go, definitely. And so coming up, we're going to go ahead and take our first break because I can tell we are itching to talk all about the offense. And then, of course, we'll talk about the defense as well. But we're going to get more into this offensive performance. We're also talking about a guy that had a record game coming up here after the break. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And happy Halloween, everybody. My favorite day of the year. But we have a few things to get into, including a guy that had a record game. We'll talk about that, but first let's talk QBBQ Fest. Miller Lite is proud to bring you QBBQ Fest Dallas. Come out to Miller Lite House at AT&T Stadium this weekend, November 4th through November 6th, for some of the best barbecue in the country. Get your tickets today at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. Christy, there was another event going on that you wanted to make sure to mention, so let's talk about that as well.
It's interesting because I think a lot of fans think that with the bye week that things calm down, but there's never a dull moment at the Star or at AT&T Stadium, whether it's the Miller Lite Plaza. But, for example, tomorrow at the Star, tomorrow evening, it's called Go Baby Go, so kind of like the Cowboys offense, Go Baby Go. But it's Frisco ISD, and then Texas Lottery helps support this with grants. But special needs kids, a lot of times in school, mobility is an issue, right? So what's a way to help them get around campus? And so it's through the STEM program where you get the kids science, math, and all that, and have them help out the special needs students by having the cars. Think of like the little Barbie cars and stuff.
Yeah.
But not only do they decorate them and make them cool so that the kids look good when they're going around campus, but they adapt them. So, for example, some of the students might need a harness or some seat belting to make sure some of them might not be able to reach down and push a pedal.
Yeah.
And so you can either have a button or maybe you throttle down with your hands. And so tomorrow night at the Star, they're having the parade of cars, right, that the students have designed for the disabled students who are going to be helped by this.
Yeah.
And so Texas Lottery, Gary Grief is coming up. He's the head of Texas Lottery and going to present a $15,000 check. And there's just so many wonderful things that are happening, even though it's the bye week. It's never calm around here.
Beautiful.
But isn't that a great name for the program? Go Baby Go.
Go baby go. And I know personally yesterday I was saying go Tony go. I don't know.
Man.
I don't know how y'all are with your SpongeBob references here.
Obviously, I'm a pro.
Okay, so there's an episode, and ironically enough, Christy, it's a Halloween episode, and SpongeBob is dressed as this character, essentially like the Flash, right? So he's standing there, and then it's just like he's standing there. He says, "Want to see me do it again?" Like running to this rock because he's so fast. So I was like, how funny is that Tony Pollard reminded me of that SpongeBob episode, and I just thought it was so fitting. So I took over the Blog and the Boys Twitter account yesterday. That's the first thing. As soon as he had his first touchdown, I was like, okay, I gotta save it. I gotta save this meme. I know it's ready. The second one, it's time. The third one, I was like, man, I'm running out of memes, guys. I wasn't prepared for this. So, I think go baby go, go Pollard go. Wow, what a day for Tony Pollard, right? I mean, Christy is just so kind and sent us these post-game notes, and we'll get into some of those. But let's do a rundown of some stats real quick because I know we love to talk about all of that. So let's go to stats. We'll talk individual players. Total yardage yesterday. The Cowboys had 442 total yards, 242 passing yards, 200 rushing yards. Beautiful. They were averaging 7.8 yards a play. Third down efficiency, they were 9 of 11. I know that is music to all of our ears. Let's see. They had 57 total plays. They had 6 penalties for 41 yards. And then time of possession. This was interesting to me because usually we're talking time of possession and the Cowboys not taking that over is more of a negative thing. Well, they were being so efficient. Listen to this time of possession. They had the ball for 23 minutes and 56 seconds. The Bears had it for 36 minutes and 4 seconds. So that tells you how efficient this Cowboys offense was being overall when they had the ball. Just absolutely beautiful. So, again, we mentioned Tony Pollard. Going back to that, he had, let's see, we're going to rushing. Rushing yards. He had 131 rushing yards for 14 carries. Keep in mind, Tony Pollard's record carries is 18, so he's 4 off of that. But efficient, to say at the very least, 9.4 yards is what he was averaging. 3 touchdowns. Good for you, Tony Pollard. Take your flowers. Dak also having himself a day with his touchdown. Keep going down the list. CeeDee Lamb. And then, of course, Jake Ferguson, which we had just talked about. So I'm going to jump to you, Christy, and then we'll go to Aisha. Christy, who do you think came out of the gates to really impress you the most with Sunday's performance? If you had to pick one offensive player.
Wow, just one?
I'll give you 2. I'll give you 2 because there's a lot.
On offense, well, I mean, Pollard lived up to the billing, and he not only met but exceeded expectations, I think, yesterday. And so I thought that was terrific. And the other thing is, he did some hard inside runs, but mainly off tackle. But he was able to show that he's versatile in that. And then the others, I won't say impressed, but I was glad to see Dalton Schultz more involved. Now, part of that is he's been battling that sprained knee. And by the way, it was Dalton Schultz, not Peyton Hendershot, who was calf roped, who was tied down in the end zone in the celebration by Jake Ferguson. So I want to correct myself on that. But I think it was just great to see him more involved. And the other thing was, I thought going to Michael Gallup early in the game,
yes,
like
ma'am.
the 2 times in the first, very intentional,
yes, ma'am.
and running those slants effectively. You can't stop that. If that is run correctly, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that. So I kind of cheated, Jess. I mentioned 3.
That's okay.
I mentioned 3.
That's okay.
But we should also say the offensive line as a whole.
I was
too.
about to.
The offensive line as a whole. So why don't you take the offensive
go.
line, Aisha? I don't want to take all the people.
Yeah. Christy's
I'm
got
taking
the whole
all the
offense.
It's I understand though because
Like I'm
when
playing
you start,
Jeopardy.
yeah, when you start looking at it like I think this offensive line, they're really starting to gel, man. Like, you can see that some of the communication is getting better, the hand signals. I think that Tyler Biotish is having a really quiet, good year, man. Like,
Yes.
And I just think that was on display yesterday. But also, too, so I'll say the offensive line as a whole or whatever, since, and then
I'll count that as one.
Does that count?
I'll count it as one.
Okay.
One is a whole. They're playing as a team. It's a whole unit.
All right. Okay, and then Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore in his young career, everyone has, their mixed bag feelings about how he operates. But I will say this is definitely one of the better games I have seen him call. It was, like I said, he was decisive, intentional with how he used everyone in this offense. And I think that what he's doing in the run game, specifically, schematically, is putting people in a lot of spots. And as you were talking about earlier, Christy, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have tight ends that are willing to block. What's going to be really exciting is when those turn into receiving opportunities.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be Hendershot's going to be used like Blake Jarwin eventually. I really thought it was going to be yesterday, just because being short at receiver with injury or having inexperienced guys and not having Noah Brown. But a couple of the Kellen Moore play calls in particular, that first touchdown of the game early, the 7-yard keeper by Dak. What a great call that was. Just,
it was fantastic.
A clear path in front of him. But also, there was that play where it was later in the game. Malik Davis, the rookie running back who got lots of playing time yesterday as the second-string running back, is ruled – well, first we thought he scored a touchdown, and then upon official review, the ball is marked at the 1-foot line instead of scoring his first NFL touchdown. And so everybody, 93,000 people in the building, and all of us on the sideline that weren't listening on the headsets to Kellen Moore's play call, thought that they were going to give the ball to Malik Davis so that he could still have his touchdown. And instead, it was Dak faking the handoff, rolling out, and throwing to Ferguson, and that was a great play call, too.
Yeah, well, and neither of you mentioned, I'm going my first player is Dak Prescott. Because
we was trying not to be too cliche.
I'll be cliche all day when it comes to Dak Prescott and this game specifically because, first of all, we don't have to hear the words Rust and Dak Prescott in the same mix ever again. I don't want to hear his name with the word Rust mixed into that really ever again, because I think that first drive showed you there was no more rust. And that was something we had talked about last week was I think that second half of the Lions game, there was no more rust. But this first drive, he comes out, absolutely phenomenal first drive by Dak Prescott. A phenomenal game by Dak Prescott overall, in my opinion. Of course, he had the interception. However, a phenomenal game by Dak Prescott. And I think something that I really noticed about Dak during this game specifically was his composure. I don't think we have seen a composed Dak Prescott like this in a hot minute. Because you even go back to the Bucs game, I feel like there was just a little bit of scrambling in his own mind, just a little bit of confusion with the communication. Dak looked phenomenal. And his composure and his what's the word I'm looking for? He was calm, he was cool, he was collected. Absolutely phenomenal by Dak. So he's my first player. It's a little cliche.
No, I think you're right on the mark.
But he deserves it.
It's a great pick.
And I'm going to go my second. Let's see. My second guy is, and by the way, Dak Prescott. Sorry, Jerry. I know Jerry's going to watch this and tell me that was not great. But Dak Prescott now has 45 career multi-touchdown passing games, which moves him past Danny White, 44, for the third most touchdown games by a Cowboys quarterback. Wow. So a historic game overall for Dak Prescott. So I guess if I'm sticking with cliches here, I'm going to have to say Tony Pollard. I mean, you go back and you look at Tony Pollard's stats. They're already impressive. But I think what was the biggest storyline for me all week was everybody kept doubting Tony Pollard once again. Can he handle the load? Zeke isn't going to be able to play more than likely. And yeah, Zeke sat this one out. The second game in his career that he has sat out, which is incredible to think about how much grit that man has. But Tony Pollard, let's see, 131 yards. That's incredible. And I think with Tony coming in, having both shoes to fill of that 1-2 punch, and of course you had Malik Davis that also came in and helped alleviate that. But he has not only proved how much of a weapon he is within that 1-2 punch, but he sat there and he proved everybody else wrong. National media, he proved fans wrong that were questioning him, because really you look around and this is the same exact situation you had, maybe it's not the same thing, but comparable to when Cooper Rush was stepping in. Everybody else was saying, is he capable? Is he capable? Everyone in that locker room said, yeah, he's capable. He can handle the load, and it's very similar with Tony Pollard this week. Everybody said, Tony can handle it. Tony can handle this load, and we saw that. And I think it is absolutely solidifying that, yes, Tony Pollard is a key staple of this offense, but I'm so glad you touched base on this earlier. That 1-2 punch is stronger. Zeke and Tony Pollard are the yin and yang. They're the sun and the moon, whatever. All of these things that go together that make the other one better, they are better together, but it is also just so alleviating to know that Tony Pollard can handle this kind of workload.
Yeah, and I think that's when you start talking about, you mentioned earlier, Christy, that, people will kind of try to make this a competition. Hey, December's coming. And that's, this 1-2 punch that you have, that's when you're going to need it. When it starts getting cold and it starts, these guys don't want to tackle, don't want to wrap up, I think that both of these guys together, the change of pace that you get with Tony. Also, too, I was listening to Jake Saturday talk about, just kind of how, Jeff Saturday, rather, talk about how offensive linemen also like when a guy gives a different change of pace, a different feel. It gives them an opportunity also to, to get a different feel and open up space, because sometimes they know this guy likes to hit the hole quick here, which we see with Tony. This guy's a little bit more patient. So I think it also, what these two guys do for this offensive line is just makes them a little bit more versatile in that regard as well, with what they can do. I don't know. I don't ever want it to be a competition. I feel like what Tony Pollard did yesterday, I was extremely proud of him for himself, just because I feel like even if you look back to his college days when he was with Memphis, that was a deep running back room. He was third on their depth chart when he was at Memphis. So he
had more receptions and receiving yards than he had rushes and rushing yards. And I think the most rushing yards he ever had in college was the most rushing attempts he ever had in college was 17 in a game. That's not a lot in college.
Exactly, and he was a returner sometimes and stuff like that. So this is this was probably his biggest opportunity to show what he is capable of as a full-time runner. And I think this is also the fourth game this season where he had 10+ more carries. And I say all that to say that they are gradually putting him more into this offense. And I think that with this game, you're going to see them continue to do that, because they also use him as a receiver in some instances, and he does so much that you got to figure out a way.
Well, and you want to talk about another guy that had a historic game. You're going down these post-game notes, and the way it's structured is you have different names and, a couple bullet points for what those guys did, and Christy's amazing and sends this to us, and I love reading it. But Tony Pollard has, 7 bullet points under his name for things that he accomplished yesterday. One of which it says, Pollard scored 3 rushing touchdowns, becoming the 11th player to score 3 touchdowns on the ground in a game in Cowboys history. The first time since Dak Prescott rushed for 3 scores in Atlanta in 2020. That was back in September of 2020. So Tony Pollard, I absolutely think deserves his flowers. And, let's say pumpkins today to get in the Halloween spirit. We're going to give out pumpkins instead of flowers today.
Why are you keeping that pumpkin down the...
there's candy.
Yes.
There's not candy in there anymore.
That's why.
That's why. There's not candy.
Because she had it down there the whole time.
She did.
No, because Jazzy literally ate the last Snickers in my face. Y'all, no, don't try to be nice to me now.
That's really spooky, because Jazz is on the other side of the wall, technically directing and producing from that side. So how she was able to come through that wall and access the candy, that's very spooky.
It's the cape she has on.
She's wearing a cape. But all right, guys. Well, it looks like we are wrapping up talking about offense. We still have plenty to talk about with defense, including a lion, some tigers, some bears. Oh my. Do the math. Let's regroup. We'll talk about that coming up after the break. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. No, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
With Smoothie King's original Angel Food and new Angel Food Slim without added sugar, you no longer have to choose between treating yourself and hitting your goals this summer. You don't have to choose between great taste and feeling great. Because at Smoothie King, every blend is made with whole fruits and no syrups, so you can satisfy your cravings without compromise. The only choice you will need to make is which one is best for you. Try our classic Angel Food or the new Angel Food Slim, blended without added sugar. Smoothie King, rule the day.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking a little bit of a spooky and a very fearful force on the Dallas Cowboys defense. But first, let's talk about how you can get the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboys fan. Join Dallas Cowboys United, presented by Globe Life, starting at just $20. Join now and get your fan pack, exclusive benefits, and more. Visit DallasCowboys.com/United for details to join today. You know, we were talking during the break, and I ended by saying lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But really, it should be a lion, some tigers, some bears, oh my. I mean, really, if you want to say it in a certain way. Who else are we talking about other than Micah Parsons, who had his first touchdown as a Dallas Cowboy? And Christy, I've been dying to ask you, what was the environment like after that moment?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. And actually, so when Parsons recovered the ball and got up and Justin Fields, the Bears quarterback, hurtled over him, it was, the field is 53 yards wide, so I'm, about 55 yards away, straight across. But I thought surely he was touched down. But he wasn't. And so great presence of mind to get up. And he said, yeah, they were telling me go, go, go. But it just shows his athleticism. And he was a running back, and he hadn't carried the ball since he was a high school running back. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine trying to tackle him in high school in Pennsylvania? Oof, There's no way. That would be impossible. But that was the moment where everyone knew it was over after that, basically. So the party was, I won't say the party was on the sideline, because it's never that way on the sideline with professional football players, because there's always the next play. But in the stands, that's when it really went nuts. And that's what finally shut up the Bears fans, because there was a good contingency of Bears fans. Yeah. So all of the orange, if you saw any of the crowd shots, the orange was not for Halloween. The orange was the Bears fans traveling well, as they always do.
Well, I'm sure after that moment, they were trying to make it seem like it was for Halloween. They're like, "Ooh,
exactly.
Happy Halloween, everybody."
But there was that point, late in the second quarter when they made that comeback, right? And they scored, the 9 unanswered points there late, and after the Dak interception there, where there was a chant of "Let's go Bears, let's go Bears," and then the Cowboys fans booed them down, shouted them down, But the Micah play is really what took the Bears fans out of the game, but that was a fun celebration on the sideline.
Definitely. And so I did want to ask both of you, and Aisha, I'll start with you on this one. So obviously Micah having himself a game with his first fumble recovery and touchdown as a Dallas Cowboys legend already. I'm gonna use that word. It's true. He's phenomenal. But who else stood out to you? Because I know you have a running list here. So I'll give you 2 players again. I think that's fair. We gave 2 for the offense. We'll give 2 for the defense as well. So 2 players that stood out to you, and why?
Okay. So barnacles. Okay, so I'm gonna give all due respect and props to Damone Clark. for his return back to football and his first snaps as like an NFL player. Kudos to you, man. I also felt like from the few things that I saw from him, you can see his instinctiveness. He sheds, he tackles well, and he also is just super fast, like super duper fast. So I'm going to say, well, he stood out to me too because I was like, what is he out there for? Because the Anthony Barr hamstring situation happened so quickly.
Well, they didn't mention on TV, which is why you need to listen to Cowboys radio. All
There you
those
go.
fans out there need to listen to Cowboys radio
Put
so
the
you know
plug
what's
in,
going
Christy.
on.
Okay,
Yeah.
plug your.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but like I was so shocked, like because I just seen Anthony Barr out there, and then you see that 33 out there, and he's out there for 40% of the snaps. Like, of course you're gonna notice him. So I think it was interesting to just kind of give us a glimpse at some of what he is capable of, and also maybe some of the vision that Dan Quinn has for him, because he rushed the passer once in this game from the linebacker spot, and he got some pressure. He almost got there, and I think it was just cool to kind of see what his how he's developing as a player, and just to see him come back from injury.
Yeah.
It's a big. I think it's a huge accomplishment for him, given what we heard about the injury initially, and this training staff and this team right now.
And just to be back, I mean, spinal fusion surgery
That's crazy.
in March.
That's what I'm
March,
saying.
and he's playing on October 30th.
Exactly.
And we talked to Mike McCarthy about that. I asked him about it in the press conference earlier this Monday afternoon and said, what did you think? I mean, this kid got thrown into the deep end of the pool because, believe me, he was only supposed to play special teams. The plan was not for him to get 40 snaps on defense, which is what happened. He got 51% of the snaps on defense. According to my notes, the Anthony Barr hamstring injury happened with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first half.
That was quick.
So Clark got a lot. But McCarthy said, a lot good, some things to improve on. It's a rookie playing his first NFL game and thrown into the fire. And so, but it's teaching tape, right? You mentioned that earlier. But what I loved about it, and I'm so glad you mentioned him off the top, Aisha, is because you could see that athleticism and you can see what it can be.
Yeah, that's
in the
why I'm
future,
trying to calm down. I'm trying to calm down. But he seems like he's going to be an exciting addition to this defense, and they may need it right now. I wrote down, get off me, because the way that he, get off me, but the way that his ability, it's one of the biggest things you look for in a linebacker.
Yeah.
And one thing that he does, even though he's still young, he's still figuring things out, one thing that he does well already is gets people hands off of them, and he goes to at least make to go make the play, and that's one of the harder things for linebackers. So I was impressed from what I saw from him. My second guy, I feel like I don't mention him enough, and that's on me, just because he's so quiet sometimes. But Trayvon Diggs, I think that Trayvon Diggs is having a fantastic season, and I also felt like he came up and tackled well in certain spots yesterday and adjusted to some of the things that they were doing to him early. So Trayvon.
All right. So that's who you're handing your pumpkins to today.
Yes, I guess.
Or your Halloween candy. I mean, either one, whichever one. Christy, who are your two for today?
I'm staying in the secondary like Aisha. She's got Trayvon Diggs. I'm going with Donovan Wilson.
Oh,
and
good one.
we were short on safeties at one point yesterday. Yeah. Donovan Wilson ended up having to go in the second half into the locker room. He cramped up, and so he went in and got an IV. So he missed a couple of defensive series, and that's the time when Jaron Kearse took that helmet to his left hip, and he missed a few plays. And of course, Malik Hooker was inactive. He was injured with the hamstring, unable to practice last week. So we didn't have Hooker for the game. Then we lost. Then we lost Kearse for a couple plays. We lost Donovan Wilson. So I'm sorry. Donovan Wilson for a bit. So we had Israel Mukwamu and then the rookie Marquise Bell. So, but luckily Wilson came back. Kearse only missed a few. But Mukwamu has been getting some more time, and not just because of the Hooker injury, but the previous couple weeks going against really run-heavy teams. Dan Quinn has been going to a sub-package where you have 4 safeties, and that way you're able to use Mukwamu and Jaron Kearse safeties with really good size, use them up in the box, meaning closer to the line of scrimmage, so that they can be more effective in run support. So having bigger guys instead of smaller nickel cornerbacks. So that's a good way to match up against solid run teams. Chicago, their run game was very impressive. had never seen Justin Fields play live before because I don't
Really?
get to see a lot of, not live, only on TV, but I don't get to watch a lot of college football because we're traveling on Saturdays with the team to go to the away games. But boy, was he impressive. He was much more impressive than I had seen in previous Bears games on TV, and a lot bigger than you think. Man, is he a fluid runner.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at 240 rushing yards allowed by the Cowboys defense is not acceptable, and they know that.
Yeah.
And they did a good job, the Bears offense I'm talking about, with their run game, but they also did a good job on third down. You talked about the time of possession and how the Bears dominated that. So kudos to them. But what that is, it goes back to the teaching tape and some things that Dan Quinn will have to harp on with the run defense. Oh, and by the way, we should mention Jonathan Hankins, who was acquired in the trade last week, the 340-pound human speed bump that plays defensive tackle that's supposed to slow down the run game. He ended up having 33 plays on offense. Now, that's more than they anticipated. They were looking for more like 25 to 30 plays, but he was part of the rotation at defensive tackle, and that high number of plays is based on what I just said, Chicago able to sustain drives and having 79 plays on offense.
Sure. So we are running low in time, so I'm going to give you my two, but I want you guys to stew. Which is stew? Ooh, I love
I like that.
puns. Thank you.
Help.
I want you to stew on this question. What is the scariest aspect of the Cowboys going forward for opposing teams? Brew on that for a second. Which is brew on that. And I'm going to tell you my two. My two, Leighton Vander Esch. Because I just feel like Leighton is really stepping up these last couple of weeks. He actually had his first forced fumble in the third quarter with Micah, who, of course, took it back home since 2020. So Leighton playing a little...
Really? That's hard to believe.
Leighton playing a little vintage-like. So I just want to give a pumpkin to Leighton there. And then my next one, Tank. Y'all, how did we forget Tank? What a force to be reckoned with. Literally, a human tank. Oh, my goodness. The amount of pressure Justin Fields was having being put on him by Tank. I don't want to be any quarterback that faces that Dallas defense. Let me just say. But
that tackle on the 2-point conversion where he just absolutely nailed Justin.
Which was
I feel like his soul just kind of left for a second. That was impactful. But those are my two. So, all right. Christy, what is the scariest aspect of this Cowboys team overall, to stew on for this bye week and then, when they return play, what do you think that is?
If I'm an opposing defense, the scary thing is that the offense truly isn't hitting on all cylinders yet.
Say that.
And then for the defense, it's just how do you protect against this onslaught of the Cowboys pass rush? Remember yesterday they didn't have Sam Williams either, and so there are just so many people to block. One thing that'll be interesting is if Anthony Barr, if that hamstring injury lingers and he's not able to play in Green Bay or beyond that, go back to Minnesota where he was a Pro Bowler for so many years, would Micah Parsons have to play maybe a little more linebacker instead of rushing off the edge? But that's something we'll worry about in a future podcast. But just the onslaught of pass rushers.
Yeah. All right, Aisha, what about you?
For me, it's similar to Christy, but just the fact that this team has not put it all together yet. We're waiting for the offense to play efficiently, the defense to play efficiently, the full game, and special teams to come on with it. And they all have their different spurts of greatness right now. And obviously we're saying they're progressing, they're still trying to gel. But when they put it all together, it should be a problem.
Yep.
And the best part is they won by 20 points, scored 49, and we're like, they hadn't put it all together yet.
Yeah. That's what's scary about them for opposing teams. I think my biggest thing, and I'm going to end it on a little positive note here for all of us, is I would be scared if I was an opposing team of the Dallas Cowboys for the second half of really their season. We're almost halfway through, everybody. We are halfway through. That's crazy. But when you have a healthy offense producing like they did yesterday, and they didn't even have key guys, and Zeke wasn't in, Noah Brown wasn't in, y'all, that's spooky. That is as spooky as it gets. I don't care about Freddy Cougar or Michael Myers. That is as scary as it gets. So a healthy Dallas Cowboys team coming back after the bye, I think, will be a force to be reckoned with. And unfortunately, we have come to the end of our 45 minutes. Ladies, it is so fun joining having you every Monday with us here on Girls Talk Boys Talk. For Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, I'm Jess Navarez. Have a happy Halloween. Please be safe. And have fun trick-or-treating, no matter what age you are. If you're Chris Beam, you're going to go trick-or-treating with the kiddos. But have a great rest of your day, Cowboys Nation. We will be back here tomorrow. See you then.
Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!